Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and in the spirit of open transparency, here is Mike Jones.
Yes, and I am really here.
Yes, it's good to know this time.
Virtually speaking, of course.
Sure, yes. Well, are any of us really here? That's another question. So I was just mentioning to Mike that there was this Mexican store here in town in Grants Pass that had one sign was printed, and on the other side of the sign they had hand drawn, and on one side it said "Yes!" exclamation mark, we're open, and on the other side, using the same idea, they wrote "No, we're closed" with an exclamation mark. Right.
So
Well,
it's just little language error there.
a
No
very
big
tiny
deal.
little thing, like, and you leave the dog alone. Yeah. Okay. So, this is about transparency. That's what the show is about. When
So we're going to be showing you a slideshow.
oh, it's transparency is good, and there's a little thing that goes bink,
Yes.
and then there's a bink,
Yes.
and you twist a little. Yeah, nobody knows.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
no,
No,
you
my
guys
dad had
probably
this
do know.
one.
Yeah.
My dad had this one that fed straight down into the top of the machine and it would go ching chong, and as it changed slides, and it would, you know, it was probably a 1960 slide projector.
Right.
But we loved these slides. He did, he went all over the place, took all kinds of pictures, and this is when I was in Mexico.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yes,
You know,
very
there are a lot of
entertaining.
little
So,
sounds
so, so we
from
have
our
a lot of
childhood.
slides of the commissioners.
Oh yeah, that's what we got. We got plenty of slides,
Sound? Yes.
landslides, sounds. I didn't realize till I visited an elementary school the other day. There was a sound I was missing from my childhood. What are they talking about in the show? When are they going to get to the news? Just relax. It's a free show. Just stop. You're stressing about things. Relax a little bit. We'll get you keyed up. And there's a sound. I grew up in California also. Well, of course. And there was a sound of the flagpole. There was some kind of metal grommet that seemed to be on every flagpole at every school in California. And as the wind would blow or the flag would wave, it'd always go ding, ding all
Ding,
day
ding,
long
ding. Yeah.
as you're waiting for that clock to tick
Yes.
down. And do you remember at the very end when the clock would tick and it would go forward and you go, oh, and then it would go back? What? And then it would go forward again?
Yes.
You remember
Yes.
that?
Oh, I do. I do. I did a lot of clock watching in my elementary school days where, it's going up to 3 o'clock, and that's when you're getting out of school, and it goes, chick, and then it goes, chick, back. And
No!
wait a minute here.
You could hear the whole class go,
And of course,
no!
the difference that we're talking about is like 30 seconds or something, because it's
Right.
going to go and hit the top of the hour. But, when you're a little kid, a minute is an hour,
Yes.
And
summer seemed to last forever.
Oh. And when somebody told you had to wait a year for something, I was like, well, I'm going to be dead in a year.
And the difference in class.
Now a year's
class,
like a week.
The difference between a freshman and a sophomore, or a sophomore and a junior in high school, was like immense. And now you could potentially marry someone that's 5 or 7 years older or younger than you. Who cares? But back then, I mean, a sophomore was not anything like and seniors, forget about it. I mean, they might as well be in college. They were huge. I was impressed with every senior.
Yeah.
Boy, they were big. Never mind. Just stop talking about that kind of stuff. Okay, so transparency. When Simon Hare first came into office, he seemed surprised by how many county commissioners meetings were on cable television. Like everybody watches cable TV. But I don't know what he did in preparation for the job. Well, I got a pretty good idea of what he actually did. But he didn't seem to know that it was on, and it was on there 24 hours a day. Now, if any of you still have things like cable TV, I've got satellite, and Mike does too. But if you have cable TV, you can potentially tune in to the city government, Grants Pass City Government channel, or Medford, or Josephine, or Jackson County. You can't do that from the cable guys here, but they can, or Josephine County, and you can watch now one show, the weekly business session. That's it. And then it will play again maybe later that day or maybe a couple of times that day, along with a little kind of music and some joke of the day kind of thing. Not that helpful. I mean, I'd rather just point at a clock. At least that's partially right, right? Well, it used to be that the county commissioners had every one of their meetings on cable TV. It was transparency. How is this possible? Is, one of the questions Simon here asked me. Well, we volunteered to do it for free. There was no charge. I remember the Courier wrote a story. It's a waste of time to put that. Why is that a waste of time? Don't watch it. Well, but it costs so much. It wasn't costing anything. This was the Courier. This was the kind of scholarly research the Courier was doing. Okay, it's a waste of time and it's very expensive. No. We were volunteering, and I was stuck in the little back room. And then now I'm out. Boy, that was a brilliant move on their part. So
yes.
So
that was the stupidest thing they ever did.
They wanted transparency. Well, they get transparency now, buddy. Okay, yes. So I wasn't able at that moment to put things on YouTube because at that exact time, there were some restrictions on the amount of time that you could put on. So I couldn't put a whole meeting.
Like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah, and it was not very nice. And it was a couple of months after they changed. Oh, good, they've changed. And so then I started posting things on YouTube and eventually led into this website right here, badcounty.com. Badcounty.com. You think they're happy now that they didn't want transparency? Anyway, so there's like 1,200 videos, and a third of them are about Simon Hare. So all kinds of peccadillos that they've gotten into, armadillos if you're in the southern part of America. So he wanted to know where all this stuff came from, and I talked to him one day and I said, well, we're doing it. I'm doing most of the work and we're doing it. Yeah, but who funds you? Nobody funds us. We're doing it because we think that people should see this. And keep in mind now that these videos were only the commissioners talking, especially in the little back room. No one's allowed to say anything except the commissioners. And it was just them. There was no commentary right now except for this show, which is mostly commentary with a little bit of playing of videos. Back then, it was just the commissioners, only their meetings. Where's the problem? It's just playing back their meetings. Well, Simon got into a little, I don't know if it was good-natured ribbing or people were kind of getting on his case. Simon, why did you say this and this and this? It's like, where did I say that? Well, you said it at a meeting. I saw it on cable TV. You saw it on cable TV? Well, I guess he never really connected the dots because everything that he said, without anybody interrupting him or making wry comments or anything, not like this show, everything that he said was playing 24 hours a day. Well, he didn't like that. That's transparency. What? Stop it. And so we were free. We were doing it all for free. We just wanted you to see what the commissioners were saying. We didn't need to say anything. They were saying it all. Well, he stopped that immediately. No more giving of your time. No more free services for the county. I said that he would rather have somebody inside the county, pay someone inside the county to do the job than to take our free services. And it was only them. Then, under Simon's leadership, they cut off all TV altogether. No TV for you, okay? None of this. What you're watching, this was completely out because we weren't doing this yet. We didn't have any funds to do this kind of stuff. That's it. Nothing. Well, a little while went by, and then they restored the service. Woohoo! Restored the service, but now only the weekly business session. It was a little boring watching the same weekly business session over and over and over and over again, and it didn't really fit in with what public access transparency, cable television, PEG transparency was supposed to be about. It was supposed to be about public being able to put things on, like your club. Hey, why not have the 3-hour Rotary Club meeting? Why not? Why not have stuff from the Chamber of Commerce every day? You could.
Or you could have, Nancy's crochet class if you wanted to.
No reason why. And what about the schools? We got 3 schools. Oh, they're screwing around, really screwing around over at the high school. I mean, they were cursing on air. They were doing illegal stuff. I mean, they were going to the front steps of McDonald's and making themselves throw up to videotape it and put that on the air. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, yes.
Wow.
That was the entertainment, and that's what the city was funding. And I asked them, why are you funding this? That's where Dave Strahan got involved. He hates me. You're wasting our time by telling us this kind of stuff. Really? You don't want to know? Okay. He hates me.
So he liked the puke out in front of McDonald's.
He didn't want to know about it. It's wasting his time to tell him about it.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Okay, so that's nice. Yeah, they don't want to hear that kind of stuff. Just shut up and go back to sleep, everybody. So, and it wasn't even about him, but whatever. So they brought it back, and then it was only the weekly business session. Okay, then Keith and Cheryl get added in. And one of the first things Keith did is he made sure that when we were having the Thursday meetings, which used to be in the Ann Basker too, he said he didn't like the idea of having to say the Pledge of Allegiance twice a week. I mean, wasn't it enough really to have it on a Wednesday? And he actually said, well, it's kind of repetitive, this Pledge of Allegiance thing. Yeah, sort of repetitive. Now he's rally around the flag, and every time there's any chance to lower a flag or do anything, he's right out in front. Why, I believe in the flag. Yeah, let me read the Constitution to you. But at the time, he didn't like that. Now, what did we do that got me in so much trouble? Remember, he called me a lying maggot. Not because I commented on it. I videotaped him saying that at an official meeting. It's on the county's record, on their audio tape. And I put the videotape up for people to see. That's it. No comments. Just here's Keith Heck. And because I posted that, I'm a lying maggot.
Yeah. Well, actually, that you are, Dale.
Actually, the videotape was lying. Once again, that videotape was lying to everybody. You're a lying maggot. He called me a lying maggot at a public meeting, at the weekly business session, which then played again and again. Occasionally, there were times where the weekly business session wouldn't play at all. It seemed to always happen. It seemed to always happen when the commissioner said something really, really awful, and everybody was talking about it, and it never played. It was live.
Yeah, go figure.
Never replayed. We lost the tape. We don't know what happened. Government transparency. So then they put Cheryl Walker in charge of the Government Transparency Fund, the PEG Fund. The PEG Transparency Fund. Well, she said, well, definitely the IT guys, they could never handle this because this is out of their range. Not, but she forgot, that we're videotaping her saying, there's no way that they can do this. And then later on, I guess it came, well, I guess we could go back and, have Dale Matthews and some of those guys were, no. Oh, no, IT can definitely handle this. Don't you worry about it, boy. IT is going to be able to do this. Oh, that's going to be easy. Why, as she pointed out, it's just using a computer. What's the difference? Well, you have probably seen. You want to tell them what the difference is, Mike? How's that going for the IT department recently?
Yeah, not very well. I don't know what it is. If they just don't care about it. I mean, because if you put a couple of techno geek people back there, Dale and I would be able to go through and figure out how everything works and have it singing properly in a very short period of time. But these guys, IT guys, they're probably more interested in fixing somebody's email problem in the assessor's office or something like that. They're not really into this type of thing or something. I mean, clearly there's an issue.
Well, let's talk about the email problem that Cheryl Walker has about not wanting to release any of her emails. We'll tell them about that, Mike.
Well, yeah, she's kind of like Hillary Clinton in the respect that, and the only difference is she doesn't have her own server. That's basically the only difference. She doesn't want, and she even talks about the same thing. Is that, well, I could never let you see my emails because if I did that, there's a whole bunch of my personal stuff in there, and I don't want you to see that. So we'd have to go through and weed that stuff out. It just reminds me exactly. It's exactly the same situation as with
why is she
the Hillary
keeping personal
Clinton
emails? Why is she keeping personal emails on the county's email, sir?
Yeah, you shouldn't do that. Listen, hey, anybody who doesn't understand this at this point, hey, you can have more than one email address. And when you're at home, you can get your email at home, your personal email. And when you're, on your PC at work, you can get your work stuff there.
What does state
Listen,
law have to say about
I got like 3 or 4 email accounts on this phone by itself, so you can.
what
do
does state
whatever
law have to say about access to emails by citizens for their elected officials?
I believe that that's a matter of public record,
It is.
right?
It is.
Yes.
And there's nobody that's made a big fuss about telephone voicemail messages. But according to expert research that I've done, you're not supposed to throw those away either.
Mm-hmm.
It's all part of the public record. If you're not supposed to throw away emails, why would you throw away voicemails on your official government telephone? Not supposed to throw
Makes
them away.
sense.
Not supposed to throw away all those documents either. Okay, so
Even if Joe was calling you to talk about where the body's buried.
especially if Joe is calling you for that reason, you better believe it, buddy. Okay, so so this is about transparency or the lack thereof. So let's just follow these dots, the ones that Simon can't, connect the dots. And so Cheryl Walker is put in charge of the PEG Transparency Fund. And then suddenly this equipment that I was using, that we were using, and it always worked perfectly. Okay, I'm not saying the content was wonderful. It was the commissioners, but it didn't include me, so it had to make it better if it was just them, right? And it always worked great. We were always on time. We always double recorded everything just in case, double recorded everything in case there was a problem. There wasn't a problem, but there could have been. Then Cheryl Walker's put in charge, and what's the evidence? It's just a coincidence. But suddenly, the dang thing can't work right. It can't record things correctly. We've lost that show entirely. We have the only copy. They've lost the show entirely. We post it. They're missing their audio all the time. It's the same equipment. They're missing their video. They just recently put up audio only because their video gave out on them. They just spent a whole bunch of money on refurbishing all the equipment. Still isn't working right. Now the microphones are squealing over the place. We didn't do anything. It's the same stuff, except now
they don't.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
They just don't understand it.
They don't want to understand it, I think.
It is. I'm starting to think it's a willful thing because this has been going on for quite some time.
And it would never take place in private industry. Can you imagine, Mike, working at a TV station and one night you have no audio at all? I mean, could you get by with that for a second? Would you even be working there the next day?
Yeah, we'll post it later. Don't worry about it. Yeah, you'll be able to see the whole newscast on the internet later. Sure.
Oh,
that'll work. Yes.
Okay. So
no, listen. In that scenario, if you're just coming into the thing and you don't understand, you would do all kinds of mock newscasts and stuff off air until you had your procedure down and everybody had dialed in what they were supposed to do and when.
No, so what happens? We get there and we see, they're fiddling with it, just before the meeting. And because we're there, we're waiting, usually waiting at the door with our camera and our audio equipment. Now, audio equipment. Have you had any trouble hearing sometimes, especially Simon Hare in the little back room? Well, we have too. And it's very difficult to hear him. And I spend probably half of my time trying to get the audio just so you can hear it, not trying to doctor the audio, as Keith said, you were doctoring the video, not doctoring anything. We're just trying to get it so that we could hear it. So this is lovely. So Mike goes up to Keith Heck and he says, listen, we've got this little thing right here, this little deal that we'd just like to put on the table, just this tiny little deal, right? And everyone else is allowed to do that. I've seen even private citizens come in and be able to put something like this, especially the TV stations. They're not going to use the audio. We're recording the whole thing. The TV station is there to get their 30-second sound bite, and they're probably not even going to play the sound. So they don't need the whole thing, but we do want it so that you can hear what was happening at that meeting. Keith says, what did he tell you about this little tiny thing that you wanted to put on that table, Mike?
I asked him if I could put it there. He said, no, but thanks for asking.
There's your transparency.
Yeah.
Now, you'll hear in tonight's video, it's only 8 minutes, but it's in high definition, buddy. You'll hear substantially different audio. Let me tell you how far we've had to go. Remember when Cheryl Walker said you can't sit where you're sitting, you have to move over? And I moved over 4 feet. Wow, that was a big victory for Cheryl. She's like, ha ha, yeah, he moved over 4 feet. She even called the police because I'm saying, why do I have to move? Hey, call in the police. There's a rule. There's no rule. And I said, I'd like to see the rule. Oh, there's a rule, says Keith Hick. I said, okay. Right after this meeting, I'm going to go see the rule. They said, there's no rule. Okay. So here's what we've had to wait till you see this. I mean, I'm grateful for it, but just, okay. Remember, we could hear them better if we had this little thing, keeping in mind that sometimes the recorder that they have is 12 inches away from Keith Hick, 18 inches away from Cheryl Walker, and Simon Hare, he moves back as far as he can get from these other two. And so it could be feet and he knows he speaks low, especially when it's something controversial like, I really wish that my friends over at Copeland got this deal. Copeland should be getting this and not somebody else. Well, he's speaking so low, you can barely hear him. Now, why would he be doing that? It's just a coincidence. So instead of this little thing, wait till you see this. Mike brought in this. Woohoo! Isn't that great? It's a parabolic reflector. And on sunny days, you point it at yourself and you can get a suntan. You want to tell us about this, Mike? Hello, Mike. Mike dropped out, so I'm going to tell you about it. Mike will be back. This is the vagaries of the internet. Okay. As opposed to the vagaries of cable TV. So anyway, this is the deal. And it gets, man, it works like a charm. You can, if somebody scratches you, in fact, it's just a little too much sometimes, and can you imagine look, we could have done this, but instead we're doing this, and I'm holding it. So I'm operating the camera, and I'm holding this thing. It's ridiculous. But it really gets great audio. You're going to see this is great audio. If Mike ever comes back and we can play the video, then you will hear the audio from this. Isn't this terrific? So that's what it's come down to. It's about transparency. Remember what Simon Hare said about how this county was probably the most transparent county in the entire world. Anytime anybody says anything like that, brother. Okay, so now comes up the renewal of the contract with Charter Cable. Remember, they're going out live on cable TV, and then you can watch it at some other time. The only problem is you never know when it's going to replay, because they don't keep any replay time. Now, if you want to watch this show, you can tune in at 7 o'clock and watch it live, or you can click on it any other time, including 7:01, 7:05, or whatever, and it will start from the beginning. And you can it's always there. And we post it up at our websites right along the top here for you to see. Always available to you, and we leave it up there for a whole week. So anytime you want to see it, no problem. Easy access, transparency. So it turns out that Charter Cable is going to renew their contract for another decade with the county commissioners. I find out about this, and I call the guy at Charter Cable, and I start filling him in and sending him videos of what the commissioners have said and done. Not crazy things about the Demick Tower and all that, but the way they've treated the public. And also filled him in because they're telling him, oh, yes, well, people, this PEG fund, this transparency fund, this is public education and government. Hello, Mike. Welcome back. And boy, we could be doing things with schools. We could be doing this. We could be doing that. They don't, but they could. Right, Mike?
Yes, they could. Yes, I have no idea what you're talking about.
But, yes. But he's willing to confirm everything I say. So
yes. Everything he just told you is absolutely true.
Well, we were talking about you, and what a great guy.
Yes. Well, then it's doubly true.
Yes. So I'm telling this guy, he's going, no, and I said yes, and he says, no, but what about the schools? I said, well, they don't have any access. They don't have any access. I said, no, they don't. but you've got more than one channel. We do have more than one channel. Did you know that? Oh, yeah.
No.
You are paying for that. You pay, if you have cable TV, you are already paying for it. See, Mike and I, we're the extension of the PEG Transparency Fund. This that you're looking at right now, this is the PEG Transparency Fund run by normal citizens. Well, I don't know, normal, but citizens, right? Where do you get your funding? We do it ourselves. Well, how do you do that? Doesn't make any sense. Well, I'm going to research that. Hey,
Yeah.
good luck. And tell me
what
you find out.
That is so bizarre that people cannot believe that you're not, is George Soros paying your
No,
bills
it's the
or
Koch
something?
brothers. What?
Yes.
It's nobody. It's nobody. It's the Pepsi
It's
brothers.
nobody.
It's nobody. Okay. All right. It's from the bank of Mike and Dale. Yeah.
We have nothing else going on. I mean, if you,
it's pretty sad.
Yes.
And everybody that watches this show, it's a tragedy. And Cheryl has made sure that you know that. So this is the transparency we're talking about. We're offering you the we offered to do it for free. No, they didn't want it for free. They'd rather pay for it and not have it done correctly. Really? At this time that we've got this financial crisis, they'd rather pay for it and not have it done correctly. Now, at the beginning, I was thinking, why would they? Maybe they don't know. You know, I've come to the conclusion, I think I agree with Mike, they do know. They don't want public access. They don't want transparency. And we got our confirmation. We have our confirmation buddy, because now that this contract is up for renewal, it's almost impossible to believe what the commissioners have said about it. Mike, are you ready now, finally, my friend, to play?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I am indeed.
This doesn't even involve me talking, so what a relief that'll be to everybody. Go ahead, Mike.
I don't have cable TV in the city, so I don't really know what is necessarily on the channel all the time, but it says we cannot repeat a segment in a 12 or 24-hour period. What else do we put on there besides the weekly business session? And if we're not, it would be, I see a conflict in our ability to meet 8 hours of programming, have it be original enough that it can't repeat within 3 hours. What else are we putting on there? Because we're not going to, the math doesn't add up. If we don't have 3.5-3-hour meetings, you know, you're not going to get to the 8 hours. You're going to be less, and you're going to repeat in order to get to the 8 hours. So I don't want to set us up with something we're already, unless, of course, we've got something else we've got programmed in there on a regular basis to meet that requirement. But we're already, in my estimation, in the last 3 business sessions, going to fail. We're not going to meet this requirement of.
Well, and the term in 13.5, as far as grantees use, it says, or if the grantor does not adequately utilize the PEG access channel. So what's the definition of adequately used?
It's the programming element of having.
Well, that's what I mean,
hours.
because we can't require anybody to put anything on there. I mean, it's like
It would be us.
it's us. What do we have to put on there?
Yeah.
So.
These are the things I wanted to discuss.
No, I've got the 13.2 that I had a change.
Did you have? Yeah.
Yeah, where it says the grantor shall provide at least 8 hours of training between 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. for any 12 consecutive week period. Because that's in 3 months' time. We shall provide at least 8 hours of PEG access for a 12 consecutive week period. Each PEG access channel shall contain distinct content not aired on any other PEG access channel. The program may not be repeated more than 3 times in any consecutive 3-month period, 12-week period. So, holy man, that's a bunch of programming you better have, otherwise you're going to get nailed on this thing. So maybe you could have John.
Well, there's an algorithm right now that
Good morning.
Hi, John.
Right now, there's an algorithm that puts old programming in a rotating basis. But I'd agree with the board. I don't think we want anything increasing our responsibility for providing more varied programming. It'd be another area of responsibility that we would have to manage. I'm not understanding the reason why.
Well, I think it's to provide, something that's relevant and changed up for the viewer. But if you talk to Jackson County, they dropped their contract with RVTV. They're doing it in-house. Every county that I'm aware of with this same situation is really in the same boat. They're not able, if they don't have the general fund dollars, or this would be ISF dollars really, and that's not necessarily appropriate to be spending on this programming, and for us to be held to such a high threshold with really we don't know what the future is going to look like. I don't want to have to come back to this negotiation in a year and a half. We need to write a contract that's able to have a least common denominator that we can provide for. And this is a pretty high threshold, in my opinion, that I don't even think we're meeting right now.
Yeah, that was the thing that jumped off at me is the whole contract is made.
Now, Mike. Okay. Wow, that was a very quick break. Sorry.
That dip was considerably shorter than I had anticipated.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. Okay, I was racing to get this out the door. Okay, so here are some of the things that they were just saying. First of all, we used to have 24 hours of programming that didn't repeat in the way that they said. 24 hours, but they don't think they can make 8.
Yeah, I kind of think that they want to get out of this because they don't want to have that hanging over their heads, and of course it gives them the ability to continue to screw these up and have entire meetings go missing. If it's convenient to do that. Maybe they don't want to have something as a matter of the public record. They can easily, finagle that themselves.
I guess they haven't been able to figure out how the heck does Charter Cable, that's headquarters up in Washington State, how do they even know what's going on down here? Who could possibly be telling those guys about how the commissioners are actually lying to them because they've been caught in some lies? Who would tell them such a thing, Mike?
Yes, I don't know.
Look, this thing about, well, I just don't see how we can do it. Let's just think about this for a second.
I'm surprised they don't want the money as a slush fund. That's what they've been using it for up to now.
It's well over $100,000, Mike. But see, we're doing so well financially, we don't really need that, you see, because they would rather not have it. They would rather not have it. This is how far, this is why this show is so important. This is how far this transparency canard, this transparency lie has gotten. They would rather not have it. Sarah Walker especially, she's the liaison to this thing. She would rather not have the PEG Transparency Fund at all, rather than be forced. See, they were always supposed to be doing this, but they never did. And so whoever used to be in charge of that for Charter, they was buying the BS, okay? Well, now that they finally have, it was very difficult to get hold of them. Now that they finally have a source saying, you know what, they're not telling you the truth, like the Infrastructure Finance Authority, when Cheryl Walker, once again, Cheryl Walker, was telling anybody anything that they want to hear, was telling them that the school board's completely on board. Well, they weren't. So I called them, and I said, no, they're not. Well, then she stopped saying that. All you need is 1 or 2 or 3 educated people. I mean, not educated like that. I mean, that know what's going on, to call some of these places and say, they're lying to us. They're also lying to you. And it's a lot of money. So now Charter's saying, no. All along, you weren't supposed to be doing it like this. It's not just for the government. It's not just for one show. And then here's our weather today kind of thing. Even that would be better. Or here's a clock that's not right. Or here's some other thing that's going on. And it's not even about our county. I mean, before with the contract with RVTV, which you've heard, Rogue Valley Television, they were putting commercials. They were putting commercials on our government channel. And I told the commissioners they were doing, no, it's commercials on our government. They can't sell commercials on our government channel. Well, that's, in Lincoln Free. No, it's not right. So they finally dropped those guys. These were the guys where the investigators appointed by the commissioners said RVTV should be investigated by the state police for fraud and not for putting commercials in there for things like the missing equipment. Now, they bought equipment, television equipment, which belongs to you. We've had to replace all that out of our own pockets. Little by little we have, which is why we've got some of this stuff, okay? And as you noticed, man, all I need to do is just breathe on this. You got to hold your breath when you're using it. And you can, it's very, very sensitive, this thing, okay?
It needs a mount.
It does need that. I need a handler and a llama to carry this thing, okay? So Mike was
because it's so heavy.
Well, it's not heavy, but it's a little bit bulky, and it's fairly intimidating, with just a wonderful side benefit. Yes. So I never said that. This thing is terrific, and Mike was nice enough to be able to borrow this from somebody that we can't keep it. I'm keeping it happy and polished up, sort of. Okay. So easy to do. Look. They screwed up the video once, but they had the audio. So they posted the audio only. I've never seen them ever do that. So let's think about it. This meeting that you were just watching, this tiny portion of this, and we've got a little bit more. This meeting lasted almost 2.5 hours. Well, now wait a minute. If the weekly business session, was County Cat Week again, and that one lasted, I think, 45 minutes, maybe 50 minutes. If that's an hour, and this one was 2.5 hours, put up the audio. Put up a slide saying, brought to you by the most transparent government in the world.
Right.
There's your programming.
Yes.
That's 3.5 hours out of the 8 hour. We were doing 24 for free. Do you think that this guy just said, I don't know how I can possibly handle that? We could give it to him, but if you don't want it from us, and certainly not the commentary, they're not going to have a commentary that's criticizing them, but it's easy to put up the entire video of what they've said and their own, but keep in mind, Simon didn't want that. People were watching that and they're going, Simon, what the heck are you telling? What are you saying? Oh, cut that off, cut that off. It wasn't me. It wasn't Mike. It wasn't even Sandy Casanelli, big bad Sandy Casanelli. It wasn't her. It was Simon Hare saying the craziest things, as they do, which we show you. He didn't like that. They would rather not have it if that's what they're forced to do. Now, they're going to complain a little bit more here in a minute. Sorry, I'm doing all the talking, Mike, but they're going to complain. I've been working on this for a decade, right? The money for this thing, the waste, the fraud, the abuse. I'm talking fraud. Some of that equipment, $11,000 worth of equipment is missing. Well, maybe it fell through a crack in the earth. No, they didn't want us to do it. We bought it with our money. Not Mike and I, but I mean, the public did. And it would help us do, I'm a little teapot down at the elementary school, or it would help us. Go ahead, Mike.
I suspect that they have done the same thing with that equipment as they did with this, the furniture that was in the foyer of the Ann Basker Auditorium. They just put it somewhere, and the fact that you're asking about it doesn't mean that they're going to answer you. They know exactly where that stuff is.
They never do answer. Okay, so
I'm quite confident that they know exactly what has taken place with that equipment.
Okay, so I'm going to. So this also involves the finance director. It involves the previous chief financial officer. It involves Cheryl Walker, big time. So I talked to the sheriff, and I said, look, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste your time. Let me say again, I don't want to waste your time. And I told him the story about the $11,000 worth of the missing equipment. Wally Hicks says, that's serious. That's serious. That stuff has our tags on it. That is serious, Dale. He's told me that more than once. I talked to the sheriff. I said, let me say it for the 4th time. I don't want to waste your time. He said, no, that's kind of serious. What happened to that stuff? Okay. They don't want access. They don't want you to have access. It could easily be something happened at a school. It could easily be your Rotary Club meeting. I would welcome that if it meant programming from the public. Not my favorite people, but I would welcome it. You don't need to put on commentary. You could just put on the county commissioners. They could simply pay back their audio tapes. They've got easy Easy. I know. I sit through these things. You know that I do. I complain to you all the time about it. You're such slave drivers, you guys.
Well, you know what though, Dale? I think that on public access TV, criticism would be more than an appropriate use of the public access time. Why
No,
wouldn't
that's
it?
a non-starter. They would never agree to that.
No, I get that because they're politicians and they're in charge of this. But when it comes down to it, really, is that not appropriate programming? I think it is. You know, it is transparency and there's discussion of what you see during transparency, which helps everybody to be interested in it. I think it's a good thing, personally.
We could just as easily have a show that's run by Levyistas or whatever they're called these days.
Right, yes,
and,
of
and
course.
they could be saying, oh, this, we've got to, spend money on roads, on just on emergency striping and never on the sheriff, which is an odd thing.
You could have Mike and Dale followed up by Daniel Shirley and Pat. What's her name out of Cave Junction? I mean, they would be.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? No, it would be.
It'd be two loons followed by two loons. I'm okay with that.
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah,
whatever, right. Whatever. It's public access. I mean, what's the famous one that everybody knows about? Wayne's World.
Yes,
that was supposed to be, and of course it's a parody on public access.
Yeah, but we're just grown up now. We're the same guys as Wayne's.
But there's an awful lot of public access that is like that, and people are just doing whatever they want to do. Why can't a political commentary be part of that?
Because Simon doesn't even want to see himself unedited, no commentary, just him. Because it was embarrassing to him, because he would say the craziest things. He still does. You guys know that. You see this.
Well, and because people have DVRs, and then they could take the stuff off of DVRs and store it on hard drives forever.
That's correct.
To show up as a video clip at some point.
So Mike, they didn't want public access, and they didn't want transparency, and so what do they got now? Over 1,000 videos.
Yes.
A nightly show.
They could have avoided all of that just by saying, sure, Dale, go ahead and keep doing that.
Yeah. In the back room. Don't come out here now. Okay.
Yes. Right. And I mean, that's the funny thing about this is that Dale would have had to been back in the control room. You never ever see Dale. You wouldn't even know who Dale is. Dale's back there in the back, controlling the video production of the show that goes out on the air. Well, and then they said he couldn't do it, and now he's up front, and he speaks publicly every single week. I mean, they have to. Has to occur to them somewhere in the back of their mind that was a dumb idea.
Well, the thing was that even when they turned the TV off, remember I told you that Simon cut the TV off? Even when they turned it off, we kept showing up, and they were sure we'd never show up again if they turned off the cameras. Well, they're just here for the cameras. And then we kept coming, and they were like, what the heck is going on? They're still here. Yeah. Because we even do still care. And has it occurred to them, Mike, that we're using our television equipment in the Anbasker to communicate with people? While you're speaking to us, you think that we're speaking to them? We're taping ourselves. We're playing it back here. We're speaking to people on cable TV. We run radio spots. We put stuff out in Tacoma. We put stuff out in Medford. We're telling everybody what they say. We don't really have to do commentary, although we both like it. We don't have to do that. All we need to do is just let you see. We're going to let you see a little bit more. I wish I could have put the whole thing, but it was long and blathery. But we will post this so that you can see this entire. That's the other thing that we do is when we put up quotes and they're from a really, really contentious meeting, we also put up a link so that you can go see the whole thing. Remember when the sheriff said one time, well, it was out of context. And the guy says to the sheriff, this was Gil Gilbertson, well, but they also posted the entire meeting. Yeah, well, it didn't help. How was it out of context by then?
Yes.
Okay, So play the second part of this. You just got to watch Cheryl. Watch Cheryl. She's the liaison. She's the person responsible for PEG transparency funds. Go ahead, Mike.
Assign that as a repeating element is really beneficial to the customer, because I know that back before I was on the board and I was trying to get up to speed, if you miss it, you don't see it you don't have another opportunity for 20 something hours.
That's
Whereas
a lie.
if it does play more frequently, but it is the last one, you can get there anytime. I get home 9 o'clock or whatever, and I am able to watch because I know it's going to be on in the next 25 minutes or something like that towards the end. That might even make more sense from a programming standpoint to have it play more frequently so people can see the latest. And
He said he doesn't have cable. He said he doesn't have cable. How does he do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a little
That will all
odd.
have to be somehow.
But we would have the freedom to determine that.
So where does it leave us regarding to this contract where we're at?
Your options are, I think, I called off right after the meeting, and I think that he'd probably agree. We called during the meeting, but didn't see
I don't
necessary.
want to put him on the spot.
No, I don't think we need to do that, but I bet I could call him up at the meeting and say, if it's the board's desire, I can say, can you just take out the penalty provisions and you can keep the money and leave the rest of the contract intact. I bet they would agree to that. I think they would agree to that, yes. Getting the leg in there was a bit of an exertion, to put it that way.
Well, I don't mind the PEG from the standpoint that we could spend the $5,000 a year. We probably have a need to do so, but it's the restrictions that we see that are a little bit, and I think we can meet the reporting of the capital expenditures and those kinds of things. So it's just kind of paring down the requirement of the changing up of the shows and that kind of stuff is a little bit more stringent than I think we're able to meet, especially for the low dollar number of $5,000.
If the same amount of money is coming in, let's use the figure.
Your franchise fee is not affected.
Yeah.
Well, is it increased proportionally by the decrease in the PEG funds? No. See, we're losing $5,000 a year here by where I think what's on the table right now. And I'm saying, why don't we just kind of pare down the PEG requirements and keep the $5,000?
If they are willing to do
You don't get the 5,000, sorry. No, the PEG, you can kind of think of it as two channels of revenue. See, the franchise fee coming in, and that's not going to be affected by whatever you do with the separate channel of PEG. So you will lose the 5,000 PEG if I say just cut the PEG from the contract.
No, I'm not saying cut the PEG from the contract. I'm saying pare it down the requirements of the broadcasting. I think the reporting element is fine. I like the $5,000 for capital. We can justify that. That's no problem. But I think we may not be able to meet their expectations as far as changing up programming requirements. That's the paragraph 13.2 that I think is challenging for us.
Yeah, because we're not talking about equipment or hard improvements. Now we're talking about programming. Now, necessarily, I'm not comfortable with them demanding of us what we must program. It should be government access and that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, that requires.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. But as far as how often, and that's I think is a difficulty for us because of for a variety of reasons. But if they can show a little ground on that, I don't know why they wouldn't. But
Okay with striking.
I don't think they will.
Really?
I can definitely reopen that part of the to try and get them
I
to.
would say this contract hinges on them removing 13.2.
Ew. Now that's interesting. Okay, they were talking about $5,000 for the PEG Transparency Fund, but they'll still continue getting the rest of it. Then Simon says, well, I think the contract, signing this whole contract, is going to depend on this provision.
Right, them paring down the programming requirement. But you know what? Listen, everything that you don't want to do is hard to do.
It's impossible.
I mean, it seems like you can't do it because, of course, you don't want to do it, and you're a powerful, highly paid executive. So if you say that you don't want to do it, well, it's not going to get done.
They were doing it. They were getting it for free. Now they're paying through the nose to several people in IT information technology to do this, and they're failing. Are they failing and anyone's concerned about it? Cheryl's the liaison. They suddenly started to fail as soon as she became liaison. That's just a coincidence. And the equipment disappeared. Well, that's just a coincidence. And the projector that was up there, and I've been trained to use the projector, as stupid as that is, well, that's now missing. Well, but that's just a coincidence. And now this thing is up for renewal with Charter, and they actually did talk about changing over to another company. I'm sorry, I couldn't put up the whole half hour here. They were saying maybe we should find another company. This is how strongly they feel about this, everybody. They feel so strongly about government transparency. They only want that one thing to play. What you're missing here, and I'm so sorry, Cheryl Walker said several times later in the meeting, she doesn't want, just drop the whole thing. I don't want PEG. I don't want any PEG transparency fund. I don't want any PEG at all. I'd rather just not have it. And they're like, well, Cheryl, no, I'd just rather not have it. Then during this meeting, and you're all going to know what this is about. Then during this meeting, Cheryl passes, as you saw, the secretary pass a note to Cheryl Walker, which is okay. Cheryl passed a note during this to Keith Heck. Oh, really? It's a document being passed from one person to another as their commissioners. I think you put it well, Mike. You were talking about something like, why did they even bother having a public meeting? What did you say about passing a note?
Well, how is that different from them sending an email from one person to the other?
Yeah, that's the thing that almost ended up in $1 million fine for Lane County. They pared it down. But two of the commissioners there were forced to pay $20,000 each because they were coming to conclusions based on emails. I have that note because as soon as this section was over, I left the camera running with the big parabolic reflector sitting there on the floor, and I went out into the hallway and I stopped Wally Hicks and I said, Wally, did you see them pass a note to each other? Do you see Cheryl pass a note to Keith? No, I didn't see that. Now, you saw where Wally was sitting. It was right in front of him.
Yes.
I talked to Simon later. And he said, oh, yeah, I saw it. Simon's way over here. Now, how can Simon see it and Wally Hicks can't? I'm sorry. Wally Hicks missing it here. And he said, well, I don't know if that. I said, Wally, it's a document. Can they pass documents to each other during a meeting? Well, no. I said, so I'm going to ask for that document. It's against the law.
Well, they could pass documents to one another if they said, hey, these are the copies of such and such document, blah, 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 here it is, so that everybody has the same document. They could certainly do that, and that divulges what it is and certainly makes it easy for people to ask. Right.
This was a handwritten note. Now, really, to be fair.
It could have said, hey, Keith,
let's have lunch.
I like you. If you like me, say yes and hand it back. I mean, maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, so I went down, and so right after this meeting, I went over to the secretaries, Wendy, very nice person, unlike somebody else there, it's a real pill. And I said, I would like to get a copy of this thing. And she knew all of what I was talking about. Really? Yeah, Wally Hicks already came and got it. Oh. So I said, well, how about if I fill out a form? Well, I'm really not sure. You just go ask him. So I went and asked him, and he said, no, you got to fill out a form first. Okay. Thanks, Wally. So I was nice. So I went back to her, and she says, he's sending you back here? Wendy's so sweet. And I said, yes, I got to fill out the form first. So we filled out the form. And it says, please let me have a copy of this. And I even said to him when I left, I said, would you like me to take it back and they can photocopy it and then I can bring it back? No, I got to hang on to this. Because this is incriminating evidence. This is a lawyer saying, no, I got to hang on to it. You're not saying I got to hang on to it because it means nothing. It does mean something. Mm-hmm. They're not allowed to do this. They're breaking the law. Well, think about it. If this is the case, why not just pass notes to each other all the time? And what this note said is,
I think Wally's left the reservation. That's what I think.
Well, I'm sorry to say that.
Yeah.
Well, so what it said on there was, if this section isn't taken out, I don't want PEG at all. Oh, see, that's not let's go have lunch. This is the way I'm going to vote if they don't do what I want them to do. and she's in charge of the PEG Transparency Fund. She would rather not have meetings televised at all. Remember what that means. I'm not talking about stuff we don't have anyway. I mean, you've got to hear with us. I'm talking about no weekly business sessions would be videotaped by them at all with your money that they just spent another fortune on. I think it's over $100,000. Zero, nothing, nada, because Cheryl Walker does not want to share this information with you. They could easily do this. They've got, oh, but it's too hard. No, it's not too hard. You're already generating all this stuff. Just put that on there. It'd be simple to hit 8 hours. Simple. We have a nightly show. It's still full of blathering from two goons, but I mean, it's still a nightly show. We've done it every night for 203 days in a row, Mike.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so this is easy. And look, the other thing is, well, nobody's really interested. Well, it's a waste of time. You know what? And I'm going to try to get the numbers right. I'll do the best that I can. They were talking about how many people watch the weekly business session on replays on their, because they have that. Cable TV won't tell them how many people are watching it live. They don't know, and they don't care. They just are interested in stringing up
that's right.
businesses and homes. They don't care who's watching what. Well, except for this, they do kind of care because they prefer that you're not cheating. They know. They're from some other part of the northern northwest, and they think that these guys here are local yokels that are cheating. And they're right. They are. And if they didn't think that before, they sure are thinking that now. Should have kept me in the little back room. Anyway, so that was a big mistake. So anyway, because I just tell people what I already know, and they can watch the tape. I sent him tapes. He knows what they're doing because he's seen it for himself. Don't believe me. Sure as heck don't believe Mike. Watch the tape. It's all there. You know that. So, oh my gosh. That's nice. Just laugh at me.
Well, I'm laughing with you, Dale. You know, I've been there myself. Well, the problem is that you took the side road and then you forgot what road you were on.
But it's an important point that's going to come back to me one of these days, probably after we're off the air. Yeah. As always happens with Bill Hunker. Bill, why didn't you say this during the show? He's a great guy, but gosh, Bill, say it during the show. Oh, by the way, did I mention to you the world's ending tomorrow? Bill, say it during the show. So the point is that these guys, they're now being watched. They're not just being watched by you and by us. Now they're being watched by Charter Cable too, saying, hey, don't cheat with this. This is supposed to be for public access, and you're not using it that way. And you easily could, but they don't want to. So that's why it's not possible. They'd rather spend all this money on getting nothing from this. That's the real answer. There's your transparency. There isn't any transparency, and they don't want there to be any and they would rather cut it all off. Oh, so she passes him a note. You should remember this. And so so Wally Hicks, he comes out, and I bring him the form that I've now filled out with the ladies, and I paid for it. I said to Linda McElmurray, who's also there, this is sort of in charge of the ladies in the office, and I said, oh, also, could I get a copy of this contract? How many pages is it? Like 12 pages. And she said, okay, I'll send that to you electronically. That's nice. I didn't expect that from Linda. Now I've got it. And she says, now you have to pay for that. Okay. Now, of course, I'll pay because you say I have to, but what's the payment for? Well, see, the reason you have to pay 25 cents per page as a fee is because there's toner and there's paper and there's research time. Where's the toner and the paper? She just sent it to me electronically.
Yes, I would like a little vial with my toner in it, and give me a sheet of paper, please.
So Simon Hare's standing there, and he says, well, I think that's state law. He's telling me that. He's trying to fool. So I said, whatever. I'll be happy to pay it. I didn't even say whatever. I was very nice about it. I'll be happy to pay that. So I paid them. So I took the receipt and the piece of paper over to Wally Hicks. He sees me in the hallway, and I say to him, I didn't have time to get it notarized. He didn't get it. Now Didn't make any sense. No, didn't get it. So he brings me out this thing, and I'm saying, so yeah, this isn't good. And he said, well, why isn't it good? And I said, Wally, we've just talked about this. They're passing a document back and forth. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now, if you want that kind of government where they're making decisions by passing secret notes back and forth, you got it, buddy. It's there every day, and we bring it to you. Is that the kind of government you want? You have it. There are people here in town that like that kind of government. It's a waste of time to watch them. Don't be videotaping them. Sherry Adkins, when I first started videotaping, she's like, oh, to be videotaping the commissioners. What a waste. Yeah, well, okay. First time I did it, they said, do you have to do this? I said, well, it's state law. I can do it. Do you have to? I said, yeah. So that's why you know what's happening. You wouldn't know if you left it up to them. There's your transparency, the most transparent government in the whole world. They'd rather do it this way than get it for free.